The stars were quiet until the scream for help echoed through them. A small alien colony named Valari Prime floated in a remote part of the galaxy. It was peaceful, green, and full of life. The Valari people were simple farmers, scientists, and builders. They had no weapons, no soldiers, no defense. And then the sky broke open. Ships came dark, silent, and full of death. No warning, no reason, just fire. Buildings burned. Children cried. Their sun was covered in smoke. Governor Ellen, the leader of Valari Prime, stood in her shattered command room, blood on her forehead, holding a small device in her hand. Her voice was weak, her eyes full of fear. Please, if anyone can hear this, we are under attack. We are peaceful. We have no weapons. Please, someone, help us. That message was sent out into the stars, over and over again, every hour. On every channel, she sent it to the Galactic Council, to nearby colonies, to passing ships, and finally, to Earth. The other colonies ignored it. The Council said nothing. Some even blocked the signal. Valari Prime was not rich, not powerful. No one cared, but Earth was different. Or so the legends said. Earth had once been part of the galaxy's United Council. Long ago, but something happened. No one knew exactly what. Some said Earth had been betrayed. Others said they simply left, after showing what they were truly capable of. Since then, Earth had stayed silent. No one visited them. No one dared to. It was called the Dead Star, not because Earth had died, but because everything near it eventually did. Still, Governor Ellen had no choice. She included Earth in the signal. She didn't expect an answer. 2 days passed. Most of Valari Prime was in ruins. Fires still burned in the mountains. Alien ships hovered above, waiting to kill anyone who tried to run. Ellen sat with her advisors in a broken shelter under the city. She looked at the screen still, showing no replies. Nothing. No help. Her assistant Reen whispered, "Maybe. Earth didn't hear us?" Ellen shook her head. No. If Earth heard, they chose not to respond. Just then, the signal screen flashed. A new message. One line. Message received. Do not interfere. Everyone in the room froze. Reen blinked. That came from Earth. Ellen's hands trembled. She replayed the line. It was cold, clear, no emotion, no name, just a warning. Reen spoke slowly. Do not interfere? With what? No one knew. The invaders didn't stop. They were preparing a final attack to destroy the capital. And then, the stars above the planet began to shimmer. From orbit, alien warships saw something impossible. Space twisted, lights bent. A massive black object broke through a fold in space itself, then another, then 20 more. The sky above, Valari Prime turned dark, not from clouds, but from the shapes of giant war machines. They were not like any other ships in the galaxy. No signals, no greetings, no lights. Just black hulls, sharp angles, glowing red engines, Earth symbols carved in steel. The enemy invaders started to panic. Some backed away. One of them fired a warning shot. Big mistake. Single Earth. Ship responded. Not with words, but with a beam of white light. It tore through the attacker in 1 second. No explosion, just total silence. The ship split in 2 and vanished into dust. Down below, in the shelter, Ellen and her people watched in silence. Is that Earth? Someone whispered. Ellen stared at the fleet on the screen, eyes wide. They didn't send diplomats or rescue ships. She stood up slowly. Her voice shook. They sent something else. Outside, the sky began to hum. It wasn't the sound of music. It was the sound of judgment. and Velari Prime would never be the same again. Asterisk. The sky remained dark, not because of smoke or clouds, but because Earth's warships still hovered in orbit like silent shadows. Velari Prime, once a bright world of fields and forests, now felt frozen under the watch of those ships. No one moved, no one spoke, not even the enemy. Inside the shelter, Governor Ellen stared at the screen. Dozens of Earth ships, black and glowing red, held their positions. No movement. No demands. Just presence. A cold, heavy presence. Why are they not saying anything? Reen asked. Ellen didn't answer. A nearby scientist, old and gray, leaned forward. Do you know what these ships are called in old records? He whispered. They were once labeled Project Revenant. Revenant? Reen asked. It means something that comes back from the dead. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, in the central chambers of the Galactic Council, panic had begun. A message had reached them not from Earth, but from Velari Prime. A video. The Earth fleet in orbit. The destroyed enemy ship. The silence. One council member stood up. I thought Earth had closed its borders. Who allowed them back into the grid? Another shouted. They weren't supposed to have a fleet anymore. We cut them off. But then the old chancellor, voice shaking, said softly, We didn't cut them off. They walked away. We only thought we did. Silence followed. Then a single warning light blinked on the council table. Earth fleet. Active. Classified protocol. Engaged. The last time this alert appeared. Entire star systems were wiped off the map. Back on Velari Prime. The invaders, once ruthless, now tried to retreat. Their lead ship backed away, engines flaring. But before it could jump, one of Earth's ships moved. Just one. It blinked from. Its position like a ghost vanishing and reappearing directly behind the enemy vessel. A blue pulse burst out from the Earth ship's core. The enemy ship didn't explode. It simply unraveled. Metal, light, and energy split apart like paper in wind. The other invaders stopped retreating. They froze. It wasn't war anymore. It was survival. But survival wasn't possible. Governor Ellen watched in disbelief. She spoke slowly, as if unsure her words were real. They're not responding to the attackers. They're cleaning them. Reen looked confused. Cleaning? Ellen nodded. Like scrubbing away dirt. Another alien elder whispered, We didn't ask for heroes. We begged for help, and Earth sent its death spirits. Elsewhere on the colony, survivors began to crawl from wreckage. Children stared up at the sky. Farmers, doctors, and workers walked into open spaces, waiting for death or maybe salvation. But nothing came. The Earth ships remained silent. A single message arrived on Velari Prime's central comms. No contact. No movement. Stay in place. It wasn't a threat. It was a rule. A warning. A command. In the far reaches of space, another small colony picked up Velari Prime's message. It watched the Earth fleet on repeat. Over and over. A young alien soldier, barely trained, asked, Is Earth back? His officer, who had fought in the last border war, only said, No, Earth didn't return. We just finally saw what they became. In the quiet halls of Velari's shattered city, the people gathered outside. Above them, the sky still glowed red. The Death Fleet didn't speak. They didn't land. They didn't explain. But every single soul understood. Earth had heard the call, and the answer was terrifying. Asterisk. The sky of Velari Prime was no longer a sky. It was a ceiling of steel and fire. Earth's warships had now moved into low orbit. Their shapes were sharp like floating blades. Each one looked alive. Lights moved across their hulls in patterns too complex to understand. There were no flags, no names, just symbols, ancient Earth letters, carved into metal like warnings from forgotten wars. For hours, they hovered in silence. And then they began to descend. One by one, the black ships dropped through the clouds, trailing red plasma that crackled. Like lightning, Governor Ellen and her people watched from the ground, standing in the rubble of what used to be their capital city. Some held their breath. Some held each other. No one ran. No one screamed, because something deeper than fear had taken hold. It was awe. One of the Earth ships slowed above the central plaza. It made no sound. It simply stopped in the air. Then a ramp opened underneath it slowly, like a monster opening its jaw. And from that darkness, something stepped out. It wasn't a normal soldier. It was tall, much taller than any Velari citizen. A black armored figure with glowing red lines across its chest and helmet. Its steps were heavy but smooth. The ground cracked beneath its boots. Behind it, more figures followed. 12 in total. Not an army, just a team, but they felt heavier than an army. These were not rescue workers. These were not diplomats. They were deathworlders. Humans born and trained on a world that tried to kill them. Every day. The lead figure stopped in front of the crowd. Its helmet opened with a hiss, and underneath was a face no one expected. A woman. Her eyes were gray and cold like winter steel. Her skin was pale, scarred, and hard, but her voice was calm. Governor Ellen. Ellen stepped forward, surprised that this human knew her name. "You called," the woman said. Ellen nodded slowly. "Yes, we were attacked. We asked for help." The human looked around at the destroyed buildings, the blood, the people shaking with fear. "You didn't ask for help," she replied. "You begged." The Velari elders stepped forward, one raising a hand. "We are grateful, but please, we don't want war anymore." The human's expression didn't change. "You don't have a choice," she said. "Earth is here now." Reen whispered. To Ellen, "Is this how they protect people?" "No," Ellen replied softly. "This is how they end threats." Suddenly, a scream came from a nearby hill. A group of the enemy invaders had been hiding, trying to escape into the forest. The human woman turned her head slightly. She raised her hand, and without a word, 2 of her soldiers vanished, moving so fast they became shadows. In less than 10 seconds, they returned. No words, no explanation. Only blood on their armor. The enemy was gone. The message was clear. The human looked back at Ellen. "Your world is under Earth's control now," she said. "Not protection, control." Ellen's voice was shaking. "What happens if we resist?" The woman didn't smile. She simply answered, "Then we leave." And that was the most terrifying threat of all. Above, the rest of the Earth fleet remained in position, silent, watching, waiting. No music, no banners, no speeches. Only the storm god, a storm named humanity. The enemy invaders, who once burned Velari Prime without fear, were now running, not because they were losing, but because they had seen what arrived. Earth's death fleet didn't chase. It didn't warn. It simply advanced. One black ship glided silently over the western mountains, firing a single pulse. The entire ridge, where enemy reinforcements had hidden, vanished in a flash of blue fire. No screams, no debris, just silence. One enemy commander tried to send a message back to his empire. He never finished. His ship melted mid-sentence. Earth wasn't fighting a war. It was cleaning up a mistake. Back in the capital ruins, Governor Ellen stood next to the human commander, the tall, scarred woman with cold eyes. Behind them, the 12 armored Terran soldiers watched everything, unmoving. Ellen asked, carefully, "What do you want from us?" The human commander looked at her. "We didn't come to take. We came to end this quickly." Ellen tried again. "So, are we safe now?" The woman's voice was like iron. You are safe, she said, but you are no longer free. Reen, standing nearby, gasped. You mean we're prisoners? No, the human replied, her eyes scanning the broken skyline. You're survivors. We don't leave survivors unguarded. Across the burning fields, other Earth teams landed. Each squad entered destroyed towns, scanned the ruins, identified enemy bodies, and moved on. They didn't speak. They didn't take trophies. They didn't help civilians. That part came later. First came purging. In the north, a lone enemy outpost still held power. Its leader, desperate, angry, scared, gathered his last weapons and prepared to strike Earth soldiers. Before he could press a single command, the sky opened above him. A glowing cylinder fell from space. He had one moment to understand what it was. Then the world turned white. That entire region was erased. The human fleet called it the Tactical Erasure Protocol. Back at the capital, the Lari survivors began to whisper among themselves. Are we saved? Or are we conquered? They burned our enemies, but they never smiled. Number. One knew what to believe. Ellen watched the humans move like ghosts fast. Quiet, deadly. She turned to the commander again. What are you? The human paused. And for the first time, her expression changed slightly. A shadow passed through her voice. We are what you called when you had no one left, she said. The council, far away, now debated in chaos. Earth's fleet was active. Systems were falling under Earth's protection. Some council members suggested sending their own warships, but others remembered what happened last time. One old counselor slammed his fist on the table. They asked for help. Earth helped. Now the stars belonged to them. The others went silent. Night fell on Velari Prime. For the first time in days, there were no bombs. No fire. No screams. But no one slept, because above them, Earth's death fleet remained, glowing, watching, and across the stars. The message was already spreading. If you beg for salvation, be ready for Earth's answer. Asterisk, by sunrise, the enemy invaders were gone. Not defeated. Erased. No wreckage. No smoke trails. Just emptiness in the skies where they once ruled. Velari Prime, scarred and silent, waited. People walked the ruins with careful steps, unsure if they were saved or still dreaming. No one dared touch the black steel dropships that now stood like monuments in their streets. Governor Ellen stood at the top of what remained of the government tower. Next to her was the human commander, the tall woman with steel-gray eyes and no name spoken aloud. But this time, the silence broke. The commander tapped her wrist device. A sharp tone echoed across the city, then across the entire planet. Every screen, every terminal, every signal line flickered on. Her voice filled them all. This is Commander Mara of Earth's 7th Death Fleet. We have answered your call. We are not here for peace. We are here because your enemy overstepped a line. The Velari people stood frozen as her voice boomed through speakers in hospitals, shelters, even in broken homes. Make no mistake, Mara continued. You are not being saved. You are being warned. Her soldiers moved through the streets, marking zones, scanning areas, tagging old battlefields. Behind them, robotic units followed, quiet, spider-like machines that erased bodies, recorded data, and restored roads like time in reverse. But still, the people feared them, because nothing about Earth's help felt gentle. In the central square, Commander Mara stepped onto a raised platform. Hundreds of Velari survivors stood below, eyes wide, faces pale. Governor Ellen stood beside her, uncertain. The commander looked down at them all. Your enemy is gone. That is the result of your call, she said. But every call has a cost. A pause. The crowd said nothing. You asked Earth to act. So Earth has acted. From now on, Velari Prime is listed under Earth's Silent Worlds Treaty. The people began to murmur. Reen whispered, "What does that mean?" Ellen's voice was hollow. "It means we belong to them now." Mara continued, unfazed. "No ships are allowed to enter this system without Earth's permission. No signals go out unless filtered. No leaders rise unless approved. Not as a punishment, but as protection." Another pause. "And then, if you want our protection again, you will never need to ask." She turned to Ellen. "In Earth space, there are no second warnings." The Council, watching from far-off systems, exploded into argument again. "She's claiming territory. They can't just rewrite the rules." "They just did," whispered the Chancellor, watching the broadcast end. "And we can't stop them." For centuries, Earth had been silent. Now they were awake, and they were not taking orders. Back on Valari Prime, the speech ended. Mara gave Ellen a final nod. "We will leave a small presence here," she said. "One ship, 2 squads, no more." "Is that mercy?" Ellen asked. Mara paused, then looked up at the dark sky. "Call it what you want." And just like that, she walked away. No handshake. No ceremony. Earth didn't come for thanks. Earth came to end things. That night, a storm rolled in over Valera. I got not a storm of war, but of rain. Real. Natural rain. It washed the blood from the streets. The people stood outside and let it fall. Far above, Earth's fleet began to rise again, silent as ever, leaving behind only one ship that remained in orbit, like a watchful ghost. Valari Prime was still theirs, but now it belonged to something else. 2. To Earth. Asterisk. Rain poured across Valari Prime, but the people didn't hide from it. They stood in it silent, soaking, staring at the sky where Earth's fleet had vanished hours ago. Only one black warship remained, floating high above like a shadow carved into the stars. Below, Earth's ground forces continued moving, quiet, precise, and relentless. They weren't rebuilding, they were cleansing. Commander Mara had left behind 2 squads of deathworlders. Each wore dark armor with red visors that glowed in the mist. Their movements were exact, without hesitation. They scanned every ruin, every tunnel, every dead tree. Not a single survivor from the enemy invasion would be allowed to hide. And if one was found, they didn't live long. In the eastern valleys, a Valari scout spotted motion inside a collapsed mining station. He called Earth's troops. 10 minutes later, 2 deathworlders arrived. They entered the dark tunnel without lights. No talking. Number. Fear. Inside, they found 6 enemy fighters hiding, starving, weak, but still dangerous. The aliens never even raised their weapons. One Earth soldier reached for his belt. A tiny orb dropped from his hand. The hallway filled with a low hum. The invaders dissolved clean, bloodless, instant. By the time Valari forces reached the scene, there was nothing left but heat and dust. In the capital, Reen sat with Governor Ellen as Earth drones flew overhead. The air smelled like ozone and fire. "We should be happy, right?" Reen asked, voice uncertain. "We're safe now." Ellen didn't answer. She watched the screen where another deathworlder was burning old. Enemy equipment with blue plasma. "There's no joy in this," she said. "Only survival." Reen looked up. "Do you think they're protecting us or controlling us?" Ellen replied softly. "Does it matter? We're still alive." That night, in a small farming village, an old Valari woman lit a lantern outside. Her home. She had hidden her sick grandson beneath the floorboards during the invasion. Now she brought him out, trembling and weak. But before she could take him for help, a deathworlder stepped from the shadows. He didn't speak. He scanned the child, knelt down, and handed the woman a small black canister. Medicine. Human medicine. Before she could thank him, he was gone, vanished like mist. Not all deathworlders were monsters, but none of them stayed long enough to become anything else. Elsewhere, at the edge of Velari's forests, strange machines landed tall, spindly walkers, with Earth's logo glowing on their sides. They moved like spiders and sang in deep hums. These were not weapons. They were terraformers. They started repairing the atmosphere, purifying the water, rebuilding soil, bringing balance back. But not for free. Everything they touched now belonged to Earth. Inside the human command outpost, a message arrived for the remaining squad leader. A single sentence. Cleansing complete. Prepare to archive. The squad leader, a man with no name shown, only a barcode on his armor dash, nodded. He activated a signal that triggered dozens of beacons. Hidden across Velari Prime. Each beacon began recording. Not just damage reports, but every conversation. Every movement. Every heartbeat on the planet. Earth didn't just protect. It studied. It remembered. In the council chambers across the stars. Whispers filled the air. Another world, cleansed. Another system, marked. Another flag of Earth, invisible, but undeniable. One ambassador said, Earth is not a military threat. The old chancellor replied, no, they are a consequence. Back on Velari Prime, the final Deathworlder patrol walked through a field where children once played. Now, it was a quiet garden of ash and blooming weeds. The soldier stopped. He looked up at the sky. The stars were coming out. He tapped a small device on his arm and whispered one word, done. And then he vanished, not in smoke, not in light, just gone. The people of Velari Prime began to move forward, rebuild, breathe. But deep in their hearts, one truth remained. They had begged for salvation, and Earth had answered. Now, they would never be the same again. Weeks passed on Velari Prime. The skies had cleared. The ash had settled. The screams of war had faded. But something deeper remained in the air. Not fear, not obedience, the black. Earth warships still floated high above the planet, unmoving. Like a judge watching over its court, it didn't need to speak. Its presence alone was law. And that was all Earth needed. Governor Ellen walked through the center of the rebuilt plaza. Once destroyed in fire, it was now clean, organized, and strange. The smooth stone tiles weren't Velari work. They had been laid by Earth drones. In the center stood a tall black monolith. No inscription, no lights. Just a silent, towering reminder. The monolith faced the sky, where Earth still watched, a symbol of both survival and surrender. Children played nearby. Cautiously, farmers worked the fields again. Shops reopened, selling quiet meals and old memories. But no one ever forgot, because every 2 days, a small Earth probe flew overhead scanning, watching, recording, and once a week, a single encrypted message was sent to Earth's central relay. Velari Prime remains compliant. Order holds. Inside her new office, rebuilt with Earth's materials, Ellen sat with her advisor Reen. Reen looked down at a sealed datapad. They sent new rules again, she said. More rules? Ellen asked. Reen nodded. Energy use limits. Communication. Filters. Travel permits. Earth wants all off-world activity logged in advance. Ellen leaned back. We're not a colony. We're a case file. Reen whispered. Are we prisoners? No, Ellen said. We're under protection. Remember? But even she didn't believe it. That evening, the black warship in orbit sent down one last transmission. It played once on every screen. Every speaker. Every device. It wasn't a speech. It was a sentence. A message to Velari. A message to the stars. When the stars cry out, Earth answers, but never expect mercy. Only order. Across the galaxy, the Council read the report. Velari Prime. Stabilized. Enemy force. Erased. Status: Earth-controlled. Civil resistance: 0%. Order active. The Chancellor set the file down. Her hands trembled slightly. They sent no diplomats. No flags, no offers. Another ambassador muttered, "Then why does it feel like Earth just claimed the throne?" No one responded, but the galaxy had changed. On distant planets, whispers spread like fire. Earth answered the call. Earth didn't help, they took over. They saved Velari, but at what cost? Are we next? And quietly, in the darkest corners of space, powerful empires began erasing Earth from their maps, not to threaten them, but to avoid their attention, because Earth didn't respond like others. Earth answered with fleets. With silence, with finality. Back on Velari Prime, Reen stood at the edge of a hill, watching the last Earth drone leave. It flew into the sky without a sound, becoming a dot, then nothing. Children waved at it. Reen didn't. She whispered to herself, "We begged for help," and then added softly, "And Earth changed everything." Above them, beyond the clouds, Earth's ship turned slowly in orbit one last pass. And then, like a ghost, it vanished into fold space. No goodbye. No farewell. Only a shadow. And the echo of new order. Asterisk.